Laika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, August 1st, 2018. At this time, I invite the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you. Minister Smith.
Thank you very much. Good morning to the members of the press, to my colleague ministers, to the members of the Department of Communication, people watching and listening to this press briefing. Good morning, St. Martin, and welcome. Today I would like to brief you on a few topics related to the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports. I just got back from abroad on Sunday after having attended a UNESCO conference that was held in the plurinational state of Bolivia. That's the official name of Bolivia. This conference was held from July 23rd through July 26th, and the first 2 days were for high-level senior staff working in education ministries and in education departments. The last 2 days were for ministers of education from Latin America and from the Caribbean. At those meetings, the ministers of education pledged to uphold and to promote the sustainable development goals that were proclaimed by the United Nations. And now you might be wondering, what are the sustainable development goals, or in short, SDGs? Well, in 2015, the United Nations proclaimed that together, countries, governments, non-government organizations, and individuals, so together, we have to try and make our world a better place. So the UN established 17 goals that countries should try to reach by the year 2030. And some of these goals are, for example, eliminate extreme poverty by the year 2030. Another goal is to reduce inequality within and among countries by 2030. And goal 4 of the SDGs pertains to education. And it reads, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In other words, by 2030, everybody should have the opportunity to acquire formal education and quality education. In addition, these goals promote lifelong learning for all. And so in other words, preschool children should have the opportunity to get education. Persons in the community who are physically and mentally challenged should have the opportunity to acquire education. And also, senior citizens should be given the opportunity to learn something if they wish to do so. Now, when we talk about opportunities, we're not only talking about school buildings, but a library is also a place of learning. Providing access to internet is a way of acquiring information and education. A museum, a park. These are all kinds of opportunities through which people learn. So the UNESCO meeting that I attended ended with ministers of education of Latin America and the Caribbean pledging, and we pledged our support to promote the development of inclusive and equitable equality education and lifelong learning in our respective countries. I submitted a report of my trip to the Council of Ministers yesterday, and if any members of the press or anyone in the community would be interested in obtaining a copy, I'll make sure that you get one. Upon my return on Sunday, I got off the plane and was immediately taken to the departure hall to say bon voyage to the students who were leaving to go to the Netherlands to further their studies. I had the opportunity to encourage many of the students as well as their parents. And unlike years gone by, when the departure of our students was a very sad and tearful occasion, these students were smiling and optimistic about their trip and their future as students in the Netherlands. I guess we can contribute or attribute this change to our modern means of transportation and technology. When I left for the Netherlands many moons ago, I didn't expect to see my parents and my family again until after my studies, and speaking to them on a regular basis was really out of the question. That was way too expensive in those days. Nowadays, students are in constant contact with their family through WhatsApp and Skype and through other means, and before you know it, they're back in St. Martin 4 months later, just in time to spend Christmas with their families. This year, 161 students applied for study financing. 122 students were granted study financing, and 37 students were denied. They didn't meet the qualifications. 41 students were granted study financing for the Netherlands. And some of the popular study destinations for our students are the United States of America, where 42 students got financing for studying. Canada, 14 students. St. Martin at the USM, 12 students. The UK, 8 students. And as far as studies in the Caribbean are concerned, a couple of students opted to study in Aruba, Curacao, St. Kitts, Trinidad, and Tobago. The most popular study majors among students are computer science, psychology, marketing, and finance. On a more personal note, with regards to study financing and the division of study financing, you might have heard that the head of the study financing division, Mr. Aventurin, met with a serious motorcycle accident some weeks ago and had to be flown out to Santo Domingo. Thank God, he had the necessary surgeries and is recuperating very well. Unfortunately, I wasn't here at that time when the accident happened, but the support towards him and towards his family, as well as the prayers by his colleagues at the Ministry of Education, they were just overwhelming. And we continue to pray for his speedy recovery and his safe return to St. Martin, and of course, his return back to work. Today is August 1st, and this means that in 2 weeks' time, teachers and students will be back in school. It is now customary that teachers come back earlier to prepare themselves and their classrooms for the new school year. I'm proud to announce that this year, public school teachers will be preparing to take education in their classrooms to the next level in technology. Next week, God willing, August 9th and 10th, public school teachers, managers, and directors will be attending their first, what they call, Techsperience Conference. This event is hosted by the Division of Education Innovation, which is headed by Ms. Aurelie Boyrad, and by the iStep team. Together, they have organized this first tech conference. This conference will give our teachers and the managers and directors of our public schools the opportunity to follow interactive sessions. They will also learn how to incorporate technology in their classrooms using devices like their phones and tablets. During this conference, also PE or physical education teachers will also get training in how to integrate technology in their physical education lessons. And as I said, this conference is being organized by the iStep team. iStep stands for Inspiring Students with Technology in Education Project. And I would like to mention the names of the hard-working iStep team headed by Miss Aurelie Boyrad. There we have the coordinator, Janelle Presentacion. Other team members are Sharon Canagita, Dason Marks, Marvio Cooks, and Georgianne Henriquez. The Tech's Experience Conference will kick off on Wednesday the 8th with a meet and greet at the Holland House Hotel, where invited guests will have the opportunity to network and engage in mini ed tech sessions aimed to kick off the conference with a blast. Now, next week, God willing, I will have a report for you on the Central American Caribbean Games that are still going on in Barranquilla, Colombia. By the end of this week, all our athletes and support teams will be back on the island, and as I said, we'll have a complete report for you as to how our athletes did at the Central American Caribbean Games. As I mentioned before, August 1st is the signal that the school year is about to begin. It seems like this year will be starting off with a shortage of 44 teachers at all levels in our school system. So at the primary school level, as well as the secondary school levels. And we do not have enough teachers when school begins on Monday, August 13th. We need regular primary school teachers. We need Dutch subject teachers for our primary schools. And at the secondary level, we are in need of quite a number of subject teachers. We need teachers to teach mathematics, integrated science, English, Dutch, social studies, geography, chemistry, physics, economy, home economics, information technology, plumbing, automotive, and computer repairs. As you can see, we still have need for quite a range of subject teachers. So let me make a general public appeal. If you are listening or watching this press briefing and you are a qualified teacher and you know someone who is qualified, please apply and encourage that person that you know who is qualified to apply for this school year. The school boards will be willing to receive your application and process them accordingly. Let me say this about the shortage of teachers. Teacher shortage is now a worldwide phenomenon. First world countries, as well as third world countries, are faced with a serious shortage of teachers. A prominent head teacher in England had this to say about the shortage of teachers in his country. He says, nowadays in England, we have to scour the world in order to find teachers. Even though the shortage in St. Martin of 44 teachers at this time seems small, it is quite high. Because if we don't get these positions filled, classes might have to be doubled, and teachers might have to double up on teaching. And who suffers eventually? Our students. Seemingly, our high school graduates in St. Martin are not attracted to the teaching profession. And especially, we get very few applicants from the male population who would like to become teachers. This year, only 13 persons were awarded study financing to study teaching. And so I want to stress that teaching is a noble profession. And I want to encourage persons really to give this some serious thought. I read a quote the other day which said, and I quote, "Teachers are one of our nation's greatest assets." One of our nation's greatest assets. So let me encourage you to become a teacher. And with that, I rest my case for the day and wait for questions.
Thank you, Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. The Ministers of Finance and Justice are both present, however, will not be making any opening statement this morning. However, both are available for any questions the media may have. At this time, I invite the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, the Honorable Leona Romeo Marlin, to address you. Prime Minister.
A pleasant good morning to my colleagues, the media present, people of St. Martin. This morning I have two announcements. The first being is that the World Bank Trust Fund recently, as of yesterday, has dispersed the first set of monies for the emergency recovery projects. These funds are the first monies to be used to start the following projects: the police and fire station repairs, public shelters, fire department equipment, satellite phones, replacement of vehicles, training for emergency personnel, weather equipment, roof repair programs, public building repairs, and social housing repairs. Please note, a process is still involved as procurements are being carried out in order to execute these projects. What is important is that a portion of the funds in the amount of $9.2 million has been transferred to the designated account as of yesterday. The second announcement is that this Saturday, August 4th, there will be the first ever Hurricane Expo 2018 at the Bel Air Community Center in Cahill, across from the St. Martin Medical Center. The work group is working diligently to ensure a successful event and have completed the following program that I will share. There will be presentations from 9 to 12 p.m. The presentations will consist of the ESF 3, which is VROMI, the ESF 5, the police, the ESF 7, and K1 Britannia about relief supplies and distribution, ESF 10, tourists and businesses. There will be also information from the Red Cross about basic life-saving techniques. From the Animal Defenders of St. Martin, what to do with your pets during a storm. And from 2 insurance companies, insurance do's and don'ts. There will also be the cook-off competition, which will begin at 12 noon. The cook-off competition, the contestants participating are Yolanda Pond, Your Delicious Event Network, Yeding, that's her company, Ralph Contavi and the Johnny Cake Lady, Athena Averts, Coma and Kala, meaning Eat and Be Quiet, and the last contestant is Danitza Dormoy from Good Food and Mojitos. I would like to make known and stress that all of the cook-off competitors are all local young people from St. Martin. They will be making delicious meals from hurricane item foods, such as dry and canned foods only. They will have a variety of foods available, and I encourage the general public to come out and support these young entrepreneurs. The expo will start at 1 p.m. and until 4 p.m., but the vendors will be present from the beginning as of 9 a.m. The confirmed participants of the expo, of course, we only had 14 tables this year, are the Red Cross, K1 Britannia, Too Cool to Loot, APAP, which stands for the Association of Psychologists and Allied Professionals, the Nature Foundation, Kuiman Prime Distributors, Cospro Supermarket, Sunny Food, Rollerfix Hurricane Shutters, Simpson Bay Pharmacy, Professional Roofing, Henderson Insurances, and Nagico. Hopefully, we will also have the participation of the military and fire department as well, but we are still working on those details. In closing, as the Prime Minister of St. Martin and the chairperson of the EUC, it is my duty and responsibility and obligation to ensure that our country is prepared, our people are informed, and made aware to prepare for the hurricane seasons, and for that matter, any disaster that can happen at any moment, God forbid. So I highly encourage the entire community, both public and businesses, to attend the expo, to come and get information, ask questions, seek solutions in order to be better prepared. We have a cross-section of important and relevant vendors where you can get information and answers. There will also be the opportunity for persons who are interested in volunteering, should there ever be a disaster, to give their names, and there will be an official registry of volunteers. So that will also be taking place. Again, I thank you, and we will continue to plan, fine-tune, and prepare for the first Hurricane Expo 2018 for this Saturday, August 4th. I thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your opening remarks. We now go on to the question and answer session. Stephen Cerillion of PJD2 Radio, you have the floor.
Prime Ministers, good morning. My question is for the Minister of Education. Minister, you said that there will be a shortage of teachers, 44 teachers. This is quite alarming. What is the ministry doing to recruit as many teachers as possible? And what do you think is the contributing factor to the shortage that we are seeing now?
Thank you very much for your question. As I indicated in my opening remarks, teacher shortage is a universal problem. Every year, we have to deal with schools opening where there are not sufficient teachers. However, all we can do is to encourage teachers to apply, encourage school boards to recruit, and it usually happens that in the course of the year, the vacancies are filled. But this is a recurring situation, not only in St. Martin, but all over the world where there is this shortage. And so I'm encouraging people, youngsters who are interested to go into teaching, to apply for a study grant. The Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports will do whatever is necessary to ensure that we promote those persons who want to go into education. For now, we still have 2 weeks before school opens, and we're hoping that within those 2 weeks, most, if not all, of the vacancies will be filled.
Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the wonderful ministers that are here today. Our conversation today, the Juliana International Airport, the present board have been asked to dismiss. Has they done anything wrong? And the ongoing controversy with Nagico and the airport is because of this problem brought. The board have been asked to dismiss.
Thank you, if I may.
Yes, Minister.
First of all, the settlement with Nagico is something that I think the entire island can appreciate, and I'm sure that the airport will put the funds to good use. As far as the discussions with the holding board, holding supervisory board, we have had discussions with them. The meeting is not over yet. It will continue today, and then we will give an official release from the Minister of TIAP.
Thank you, Minister. We now move on to the second round of questions. Stephen Cerulean, PJD2, you have the floor.
Minister of Education, it's for you again. You're just back from Bolivia, where you attended this meeting of UNESCO, of ministers coming from throughout the region. You spoke of the SDGs. How do you intend to go about implementing those SDGs, particularly on St. Martin? You said that a report has been forwarded to the Council of Ministers. Was it also mentioned in your report, your plans moving forward?
The Sustainable Development Goals that have been set forth by the United Nations are goals that every country will look at to see how they will achieve and implement them by the year 2030. Some of them are being worked on or have already been achieved here in St. Martin. For example, one of the goals would be universal primary education. Now, we do have that in St. Martin. Secondary education, teacher education. So it's not, these goals are not necessarily things that countries are not working on, but it's to ensure that by 2030, all countries of the world would have reached a stage whereby they can say they're offering equitable and education and equal opportunities to all. What we will need to do here is to work on the lifelong learning opportunities for all of our citizens. The goal, the fourth goal, that's a goal that pertains to education, but the other 16 goals pertain to other sectors in the society. And so not only education, but the entire government sector and all the ministries will have to look at the various goals, the 17 that have been advocated, and see how they can begin to implement them. I think that in St. Martin we're pretty far with many of the goals in education and the other ones. And so together with the UNESCO representative on St. Martin, with Foreign Affairs, that has assigned one person to coordinate the implementation of the goals in St. Martin, and together with the other ministries we will be sitting down and evaluating what we have accomplished so far and indicating how we will move forward.
Thank you, Minister Smith. Lyndon Brown.
Good morning again, ministers. Question to our Prime Minister. You have been emphasizing that from the 550 million euro, it will come in trenches. Now, late but welcome. A lot of people never believe that this day will come. Tell the people of St. Martin again how the funds will be execute, yeah, and how soon we will see some work on the various areas that allotted to.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for that question. Indeed, I will reiterate what you stated. Many thought that the funds would not come, but that was not me. I have always been confident that the monies that were allocated for St. Martin, that St. Martin will get that. Of course, there were conditions that we had to meet. We met those conditions, hence this is the results of the hard work that we have put in. Yesterday, as I indicated, 9.2 million is just a start, because remember, in the first tranche, 55 million was transferred to the World Bank Trust Fund. The first part of that, $9.2 million, has been allocated for the beginning. It's just a portion of it to start the emergency projects like I listed before. But indeed, I never had any doubt, and I still don't have doubt on the rest of the funds coming to St. Martin. But again, results will show that what I'm stating, as you see today.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
Minister of Finance, the central bank stated in a press release that the circulation of certain guilders will stop or have stopped as per yesterday, July 31st. Elaborate a bit more on the stoppage of the circulation of those guilders in particular. I'm sure you have been notified.
Thank you. Good morning to my colleagues and to the listeners. Thank you, Stephen, for that question. The central bank, indeed, what they intend to do is to slowly take out of circulation those, those bills that are no longer meet the requirements for circulation. And that is just a standard procedure that any central bank does periodically. So that's all it is. Maybe you were trying to connect it to the fact that bills might be depleted in 2 years from now. But again, in the previous press briefing, I mentioned that that's nothing to really worry about. It's just to inform the people of the day-to-day operations of the central bank. And this is one of the exercises they do periodically. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heerlings. Lyndon Brown.
Question to Minister De Wever. A lot of parents are in pain for their children. When you look at the statistic at the Pine prison, the numbers that are there is around from 30 years old down, our male youngsters. It may look happy and people may laughing and jollying, but parents are pained when their youngsters which is not their fault, but they end up in the permanent prison. Is the Justice Office, the Justice Minister in your office, do you plan to do something better, like create some rehabilitated center instead of imprison these youths?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. There are certain different categories, as you kind of indicated. Those that are at the Miss Lally Center, that center was, was damaged with the passing of Hurricane Irma. The funds are being made available to repair that center, and we are looking at the first phase of beginning the day program, and that will be shortly followed by the full program. As far as parents and the pain, I am sure and can only imagine what it feels like. I think the focus should always be on prevention, and as parents, you have a very pivotal role to play in that as well. I think the entire community has an entire role to play in the prevention, and I think if we all just did the right thing, we wouldn't really need bigger prisons. We might need a new prison because of the condition of the old one, but not that we may need bigger prisons. I visited the one in Bonilla not too long ago when we had the AVO meeting, and I was kind of shocked at the amount of prisoners that they had in their old prison, because they haven't moved over to the new prison as yet. I think there's space for 130 or 150 inmates, but their current population was like 105 or 115, so they didn't build with many rooms to fill kind of thing, but they did focus on the rehabilitation as well. I know there's an area for what they call HORTICA, which is the hospitality and cooking and food, etc. That is also good. Planting, agriculture, that's also something that we're looking at. And I think overall, while they're unfortunately in prison, they will have to be going through the program. Right now, as you know, our prison also sustained a lot of damage with Irma. The recreational areas, as far as for the training, whether it's upholstery, woodwork, carpentry, or metalwork, those areas were damaged, so we are getting a quotation for them to be repaired, and then we can also start back with that rehabilitation program. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister DeWeaver. I will allow another round of questions. So, Stephen Cerulean, you have the floor.
Thank you. My question is for the Minister of Justice. The installation of cameras in and around town, how soon do we foresee the completion of this, and is there a time frame as to when those will be operational?
I am pleased to announce that, first of all, the location where the surveillance will be taking place has been rented. That lease agreement was signed, and the installation of that equipment in that facility is also going to start. The recruitment has already started, and they're going to begin working. If I'm not wrong, I believe today they're going to start on the 1st of August. The cameras are already in their location, so it's on track, and we hope to keep it on track. Thank you.
Lyndon Brown.
I heard your voice, and the children that are leaving to study in various countries of the world. From your office, do you plan to make some mechanism to encourage younger teachers? We have a lot of students here at St. Martin, and do you have preferable destination, like teachers coming to recruit teachers from abroad? Do you have any areas, countries that you would like to see teachers come to St. Martin to teach our children?
Thank you for the question. No, we don't. We're looking for teachers who are qualified in particular subjects or subject areas. So if you're qualified and meet the standards that we have, then it doesn't matter where you come from. So primary school teachers, we'd prefer if they're trained here on St. Martin, and the programs are here. It's just to get youngsters or older persons who want to change their career just to get them into the program. But it can be done here at the University of St. Martin. Again, my appeal would be to anyone who's interested in teaching, go for it. It's a noble profession.
It can be a drive somewhere, like a drive to encourage, to excite the youngsters to join.
That would be something that we would be looking at in the course of this year. As you know, I've just been in this position for 1 month. So we have another 6 months, because teachers, persons who would like to get a study grant, they would need to do that, apply for that by the end of this year, end of December. So in the next couple of months, that would be something that we would be looking at to encourage persons who want to go into the teaching profession to do so.